Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Mr. Dickin here, and in this video we're going to be discussing complex numbers. So kind of think of this as you guys now have a new ability, you have a new superpower in your math arsenal, where now we are allowed to take the square root of negative numbers. So, yay. Up until this point, anytime you saw a negative underneath a radical, you guys always default to no real solutions. And yeah, that is true, because there are no real numbers that would work for that. However, there are complex numbers that do. And that's what we're going to be getting into. So, a little math fun for you. Complex numbers will be represented by I. So here we've got keeping it real. No i's allowed because imaginary values or complex values are not real numbers. Here we got a little math fight. You know me, I'm a big fan of math fights. Between imaginary values and pi, be rational, get real. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All right, so the imaginary unit is defined as I, and I is the square root of negative 1. So the imaginary unit is going to be the letter I. It's typically written kind of like italicized, and it's the square root of negative 1. So if I wanted to do I squared, well, that would be the square root of negative 1 times another square root of negative 1. Or the square root of negative 1 squared. Well, we know that if you square something, it kind of nullifies a radical, so I squared is just going to be equal to negative 1. Which then means I to the third power, well, if I think of I to the third power, that would be the square root of negative 1 times another square root of negative 1 times another square root of negative 1. Well, we just determined that these guys would equal a negative 1. And then the square root of negative 1, well, that's just, come on, stylus, why don't you work? That's just I. So the square root of negative 1 is just I. So then I to the fourth power would be 4 different square roots of negative 1s together, or 4 different i's. Holy smokes, that's a gross negative 1. And we know that I to the fourth would be essentially I squared times another I squared. So that's going to be a negative 1 times another negative 1, so that would just equal 1. So hopefully we're seeing a little pattern here with regard to i's and I squareds and I to the thirds and all of that. You're either going to have a negative 1, a negative I, a positive 1, or a positive I as our result. So here's kind of the conclusion there. You have I, and then negative 1 is I squared. I to the third power would be negative I to the fourth power would be positive 1. The big piece that we're going to be using out of this is going to be I squared. That's going to be the most common thing you guys see. If you ever see an I squared, that just gets replaced with negative 1. All right, so just to recap, I is going to be an imaginary unit. And I is defined as the square root of negative 1. So let's see how this plays out. And it's going to be a lot easier than you think. We want to take the square roots of negative numbers that may happen to be negative. Well, here we go. The square root of negative 5. Previously, we would have said no real solutions. Well, now I've got the letter I in my arsenal, so now I can say I times the square root of 5. So this I is essentially just like factoring out the negative sign from that radical. Mathematically speaking, what I'm technically doing is separating this as a negative 1 times 5, and then that breaks apart as square root of negative 1, square root of 5, and as we know, square root of negative 1 is just I. So legally speaking, that's why I'm allowed to do what I'm doing here. Number 2, we have the square root of negative 16. Well, I know there's going to be an I involved because it's a negative. And the square root of 16, do I know that? Yeah, sure do. It's 4. The general convention is the letter I gets written before a radical, but after a number, so after a rational number. All right, next one, negative rad 8. Rad negative 8. So that'd be I rad 8. Or if you're reducing down your radicals, if you guys remember way back when making your little factor tree and finding pairs and all that, this would be 2I rad 2. Either one of those would work. Number 4, square root of negative 81, that would be 9I. Number 5 would be I rad 13. Number 6 would be 7I. 7 and 8, we've got a product going on here. So with these, we have to kind of handle each radical separately and then find the product of the results. So for number 7, that would be 5I, right? The square root of negative 25. The negative gives us the I. Square root of 25 is just 5. We know that. Square root of negative 4 would be 2I. So now when I multiply those together, 5 times 2 is going to give me 10. I times I is an I squared. And hopefully sirens are going off in your brain. I squared is technically a negative 1. It's a negative 1 in disguise. So this is really saying 10 times negative 1. And I think we can all do that mentally, right? That would be negative 10. All right, let's do number 8. Very similar. Square root of negative 36, that would be 6I. Square root of negative 9 would be 3I. Multiply those together, I'm getting 6 times 3 is 18. I squared, so negative 18, because again, I squared is really just a negative 1. Not too shabs, right? Not too shabs. All right, now let's get into complex numbers. So complex numbers are the formal way in which we can write values that have an imaginary component. So the format in which complex numbers are written is A plus BI. Technically speaking, every real number you've ever dealt with has been a complex number in disguise with just a B value of 0. Because I could argue, for instance, the number 7 is really 7 plus 0I. So it only had a real component, did not have any imaginary component. So when we're talking about complex numbers, we have both the real component, so without the I, and the imaginary component represented. So these are all examples of complex numbers. 6 plus 2I. 6 is the real part, 2I is the imaginary part. Over here on examples like 5I, there is no real part, so that would be 0 plus 5I. We always want to write it, real component goes first, imaginary component goes after. So, up until this point, we've kind of discussed real numbers, and within real numbers, we have integers, we have rational numbers, we have whole numbers, we have irrational numbers. We had all of these little numbers that we've been talking about, and then there's this whole other family of imaginary numbers. And imaginary numbers are as soon as you start taking square roots of negatives. Together, these two groups create complex numbers. So this is kind of the overall umbrella category of number sets. All right, adding, subtracting complex numbers. This is nothing more than just combining like terms. Tell yourself that I, the imaginary variable, is, or not imaginary variable, it's the imaginary component. Tell yourself that I is just a variable. So when we're adding like terms, right, 5 plus 7 would go together, and then negative 11I and a positive 4I would go together. So if I added those together, I'd get 12 minus 7I. That's all you got to do. Make sure it's written. Real component goes first, imaginary component goes after. So all we're doing here when we're adding or subtracting is combining our like terms. Number 2 is going to have a little bit more of a difficulty just because we have to keep in mind that this is subtraction happening. So this negative sign is going to affect both of those pieces in there. This is really going to be a negative 5 plus I and then plus 11 plus 6I. Because that negative sign affects everything. So let's combine our real numbers. We've got a -5, we've got a +11, that is 6. I've got a 1i plus 6i, that would be 7i. Number 3, last one. Combine our components here. I've got imaginary components, so a +7i and a -4i. Then I've got my real component, -3 is the only one. So I'll have to write this in the proper order. -3 comes first because it's the real component. And then our imaginary comes next, 7i plus -4i, +3i. So not too shabby there, not too difficult. All right, and then the last little bit that we'll get into here. I think we're in the home stretch. Yeah, dude, we're almost done. Sweet. The last little bit is multiplication. So this is basically just going to be straight up distribution. Again, imagine that you're doing this with just variables. The only caveat here, the only special thing to be aware of, is that I squared is -1. So if you ever see an I squared pop up, that gets replaced with a -1. All right, so let's distribute. I get 12i minus 20i squared. Well, I see an I squared, so in my head, sirens are going off. I squared is just a -1. So what that means is we're just going to flip, hey now, we're going to flip the sign in front of that coefficient, and the I squared is kind of gone. So 12i plus 20. These are saying equivalent statements. These are saying the same thing. This I squared was just a -1. So what I was doing here is I had this minus 20 times, instead of I squared, that was a -1, and we get the positive 20 here. So what I have is technically correct, but it's just written incorrectly. We want to write this in the proper order. Real numbers come first. 20 plus 12i would be our result. All right, number 2, very similar. We'll distribute 14i minus 63i squared. Well, this 63i squared can be simplified because, again, I squared is just -1. So if I ever see I squared, I'm going back to real numbers. That becomes a positive 63 then. And then I still have the 14i chilling. Next up, 2 binomials being multiplied together. You guys may know this as the FOIL method, everyone's favorite 4-letter F word. So we'll distribute our binomials together. I'll get -14 minus 35i plus 6i plus 15i squared. Now, a few things are happening here. First and foremost, we have like terms in the middle. So -35i plus 6i is a -29i. Next, we have this 15i squared. Well, that's technically a -15. So I've got -14 minus 15. That is -29. So -29 minus 29i would be our answer there. Number 4, 2 minus 5i. That's really 2 minus 5i times another 2 minus 5i. Again, we would distribute or FOIL this thing out. We get 4 minus 10i minus 10i again, plus 25i squared. Just like before, we've got some like terms in the middle here, so that'd be a -20i. And we've got this 25i squared, which is really a -25, because I squared is -1. So now I've got 4 minus 25. 4 minus 25 is a -21. All right, 5 and 6. 5 and 6. Here we have something called conjugate pairs. Conjugate pairs are when you have 2 binomials that look the exact same as far as the components that make them up. The only difference is the sign included. So here we have a 4 and a 6i separated by a plus, 4 and a 6i separated by a minus. Conjugate pairs result in a difference of squares factor pattern. So if I were to FOIL this thing out, I get 16 minus 24i plus 24i minus 36i squared. And if we remember our difference of squares, those middle two terms kind of nullify each other. So this is really just 16 minus 36i squared. So this is a difference of squares pattern that stemmed from a conjugate pairs factoring set. Now hopefully we know that, hey, I'm seeing an I squared here. So a negative 36i squared is really just a positive 36. This is 16 plus 36. If I add this together, I get 52. So this is kind of a cool property. We have two complex numbers, two complex binomials, that when multiplied together brings us back to the real number set. That's pretty neat. You probably won't be interested in that again until you take complex variable analysis in college, but you know it, for the time being, enjoy it while it lasts. All right, number 6, same thing. Since I already know that the middle terms are going to be canceling out conjugate pairs, I'm just going to go straight into my difference of squares result. Remember, the first term is just the squared version of our first, and then the last term is 3i negative 3i. So same idea here. We have 1 minus 9i squared, but minus 9i squared is really a plus 9 because I squared is negative 1. So this would result in 10. Whew, all right, that was a lot of talking. Holy smokes. If you made it this far, props to you. All right, we need to describe and correct the error made in simplifying this expression. And then we have what are the variables of x and y when given this expression. So let's do the find and correct. Okay. So it looks like someone made a whoopsie-daisy when dealing with this distribution. So we have 4 times 4, 16, 4 times 7i, good. So it looks like we have difference of squares pattern, which means, they forgot the word difference. So that should be a minus 49i squared, which meant this would be a plus right here. So this is really saying what is 16 plus 45, so 65 should be our answer there. So the error made was just a simple little negative whoopsie. All right, next, what are the values for x and y when blank? All right, so let's look at our real numbers. We have 5, we have x, we have negative 1. In my head, I need to figure out 5 minus x equals negative 1. What value would make that true? Well, x would have to be 6. So b is out, d is out. Next, let's look at the imaginary parts. We have 4i minus yi equals negative 3i. So I've got 4 minus something equals negative 3. Well, that would be 7. So A would be our answer. All right, that's it. That's all. You know the drill. If you have any questions, please let me know. I hope this video educated you, got you pumped about some collegiate level math when you take complex variable analysis way down the road. If you have any questions, speak up. And as always, good luck, have fun, be safe, roll tide.